most people encounter a verbal bully, whether in a corporate boardroom, a social circle, or a public setting, their primal instincts immediately kick in. They either default to explosive defensiveness, shouting back to protect their pride, or they shrink inward, offering meek compliance to avoid further conflict. Both reactions play directly into the bully's hands. Aggressive retaliation gives the bully the loud drama they crave, while submission signals that you are an easy target who can be picked on without consequence. Bender bullying in adult spaces rarely involves physical violence. Instead, it manifests through psychological subversion, public humiliation, condescending remarks, interrupting you in front of peers, passive-aggressive digs, and weaponized sarcasm. The underlying psychology behind these attacks is almost always identical. The bully is seeking a quick, cheap hit of social status by attempting to lower yours. They are fishing for a visible emotional reaction: anger, panic, embarrassment, or self-doubt, because your emotional disturbance serves as public proof of their dominance. Dale Carnegie wrote extensively about the utter futility of meeting hostility with immediate hostility. When you react with visible anger, you surrender emotional control and elevate the conflict into a public spectacle where logic completely vanishes. True power in interpersonal dynamics lies in absolute self-mastery and non-engagement with the underlying bait. The most lethal way to disarm a bully is not to fight harder, but to render their attack completely useless by depriving them of the emotional audience payoff they desperately need. Wanji. Disarming a bully without fighting requires a fundamental mindset shift. You must stop viewing their attack as a statement about your worth and start viewing it as a diagnostic window into their internal insecurity. High status, secure individuals have zero need to tear others down to feel important. When someone resorts to public hostility or condescension, they are broadcasting their own fragile ego and desperate need for external validation. Lens. When you master the discipline of calm, tactical escalation, you refuse to play by their chaotic rules. You strip away their leverage, expose their bad behavior to everyone watching, and turn their own aggressive momentum right back onto them, all without ever raising your voice or throwing a single punch. In the next section, we will break down the exact mechanics of the emotional vacuum and how using neutral non-reactions forces an aggressor to burn out instantly. Maintaining absolute emotional composure during a public verbal attack deprives the aggressor of their audience payoff and shifts status back to you. The absolute foundation of tactical de-escalation is creating what psychologists call an emotional vacuum. A verbal bully relies entirely on a predictable stimulus response loop. They drop an insult, interject with condescension, or make a mocking remark, expecting an immediate emotional payoff, a flustered explanation, an angry outburst, or an embarrassed drop of the eyes. The moment you interrupt that expected loop by offering zero emotional feedback, the bully experiences an immediate psychological shock. To execute the emotional vacuum effectively, when targeted by an aggressive comment or public dig, adopt the 3-second tactical freeze, yawn, stop. All physical movement entirely. Freeze your facial expressions, keep your hands relaxed, and refrain from fidgeting, shifting your weight, or offering a nervous laugh. Hold steady, unblinking eye contact. Look directly into the bully's eyes with a neutral, completely unbothered expression, neither angry nor scared, simply evaluating them like a scientist observing an interesting bug. MZD. Count 3 full seconds in your head before responding. Blamst. That deliberate 3-second delay feels like an eternity in a tense conversation. It instantly shifts the pressure off you and dumps it squarely back onto the aggressor. During those 3 seconds, the entire room watches the bully hang in uncomfortable silence, waiting for a reaction that never comes. Dale Carnegie observed that human beings are deeply unnerved by silent, unshakable composure. When you meet aggression with total stillness, you signal that the bully's attempt to destabilize you has failed completely. You appear massive, grounded, and immune to their social game. Bond. Once the 3 seconds elapse, do not engage with the content of their attack. Instead, deliver the clinical inquiry. Ask a plain, low-register question that forces them to explain their bad behavior out loud to the room. No. Bully condescendingly. Did you really think that proposal was going to work? Or were you just guessing? Bends you after 10-second freeze, calm and low tone. Are you asking because you have a specific strategic concern? Or are you just trying to be rude? Notice the devastating precision of this response. You did not raise your voice, call them names, or defend your proposal. You simply held up a mirror to their hostility. By asking them to clarify their intent in front of everyone, you force them to make a difficult choice, either double down on being explicitly mean, which turns the entire room against them, or backpedal awkwardly and offer a weak excuse. If the bully attempts to brush off their attack with a classic manipulator's retreat, relax. I was just joking. Do not smile or let them off the hook. Maintain your neutral posture and deliver a simple cold closure. Got it. Let us get back to the actual agenda. Banned by refusing to absorb their toxic energy, holding total physical composure, and using clinical questions to highlight their poor conduct, you render their aggression completely impotent. Blind. In the next section, we will explore how to use weaponized clarification to dismantle subtle passive-aggressive digs and covert insults in real time. Okay? Holding a neutral tactical freeze forces the aggressor into uncomfortable silence and exposes their intent to the room. While overt hostility is easy to spot, the most common form of adult bullying operates under the radar, passive-aggressive subversion. This includes backhanded compliments, sarcastic jokes delivered at your expense, quiet eye rolls during your presentation, or subtle digs disguised as passive-aggressive. Bullies use plausible deniability as a shield. If you call them out directly, they immediately play the victim, claiming you are too sensitive, taking things the wrong way, or can't take a joke. Bad. This covert tactic is designed to erode your confidence slowly while keeping the bully's hands clean. If you laugh along to keep the peace, you validate their disrespect and give them green light permission to keep pushing. If you explode in anger, you look unstable while they look reasonable. Dale Carnegie taught that the most effective way to eliminate friction and expose hidden motives is through the art of direct, calm clarification. To dismantle passive-aggressive digs without escalating into a fight, you must strip away their plausible deniability and force the hidden insult into broad daylight. And the most lethal tool for neutralizing covert disrespect is the literal clarification protocol. The moment a passive-aggressive remark is made, treat the statement with absolute, literal seriousness and ask the bully to explain the joke. Yawn, bully sarcastic, must be nice to leave right at 5 o'clock every day while the rest of us actually work. Chanyu neutral tone, eye contact. What do you mean by that? Kubali? Oh, nothing. just saying you get to leave early. Menu calm. Direct, my shift ends at 5 and my core deliverables are complete. Are you implying that my work isn't getting done? Bans by refusing to accept the joke and asking them to explain the exact meaning of their words. You force the bully to pull off their mask. Humor and sarcasm rely entirely on unspoken subtext. The moment you demand explicit clarification, the humor vanishes instantly, leaving the bully holding a naked, awkward insult in front of the entire room. Beat another high-leverage tactic for group settings is the public pause and pivot. When someone makes a covert dig or interrupting remark, while you are addressing a group, do not engage in a back-and-forth banter. Simply pause, look at them with mild curiosity, acknowledge the interruption with zero emotion, and immediately pivot back to your point. Jung, I hear your thought. Moving back to the primary strategy. Doctor, this response treats the bully's comment not as a threat, but as an insignificant distraction, like a minor cough in the audience. It communicates absolute high status. Your focus is on high-level results, and their petty attempt at social sabotage isn't even worth your emotional energy. Bans. When you consistently drag passive-aggressive insults into clear light and dismiss childish interruptions with cold professionalism, covert bullies quickly realize that targeting you yields zero reward and maximum public awkwardness. In the next section, we will cover how to handle high-stakes authority bullies, such as toxic, dark bosses or hostile senior leaders, without putting your career or reputation at risk. Demanding literal clarification for passive-aggressive remarks strips away plausible deniability and exposes hidden hostility. De-escalating a peer or a public agitator relies on social exposure, but dealing with an authority bully, a toxic boss, an aggressive client, or a hostile senior manager requires a completely different tactical play. When the person targeting you holds structural power over your job security, salary, or career progression, firing back with direct confrontation or sharp sarcasm can end in professional ruin. Authority bullies thrive on this exact power asymmetry. They use intimidation, sudden explosive outbursts, unrealistic demands, and public belittlement because they believe you are trapped and unable to fight back. Low-status employees handle authority bullies in one of two destructive ways. They either absorb the abuse in terrified silence, which invites even harsher treatment, or they engage in emotional insubordination, giving the toxic manager a legitimate reason to write them up or fire them on the spot. Dale Carnegie emphasized that when dealing with high-status or volatile individuals, your greatest weapon is strategic self-control, anchored in cold, objective facts. You must completely separate the manager's aggressive emotional delivery from the actual operational reality of the business. An authority bully wants you to get emotional, defensive, or tearful because your dysregulation validates their dominance and shifts the focus away from their own incompetence. Bend to disarm a hostile superior without risking your career. Execute the documentation and boundary framework. First, deploy the de-escalation mirror. When a manager raises their voice or launches a verbal tirade, lower your own voice by 2 notches and slow down your speaking cadence by half. Speak with deliberate, unhurried precision. Human nervous systems naturally mirror the energy around them. By responding to high-pitched rage with low-frequency calmness, you actively force their neurological state to cool down. Second, pivot immediately to objective solution framing. Strip all emotion out of the conversation and demand factual parameters. Toxic boss yelling. This report is an absolute disaster. Do you even care about your job? You calm, low register, unhurried. I hear your frustration with the current draft. To ensure I align it with your expectations immediately, please point out the specific metrics that need adjustment so I can update them by 3 o'clock. Which begins by completely ignoring their personal attack and focusing strictly on actionable deliverables. You force the boss out of their chaotic emotional brain and back into their logical operational brain. You make it impossible for them to continue yelling without looking visibly unhinged to anyone observing. Third, enforce strategic paper trails. Authority bullies operate best in the shadows of verbal conversations where they can deny what they said. Following any aggressive interaction or shifting demand, immediately send a clear professional email summary. Per our conversation today, I am updating the project timeline based on your instruction to shift priority away from task A toward task B. Please let me know if any detail differs from your directive. Damn, this written record serves a dual purpose. It acts as an absolute protective shield against gaslighting, and it signals to the toxic leader that you operate with meticulous documentation. He also ends .zen documentation, a trait that terrifies abusive managers who rely on plausible deniability chance. When an authority bully realizes that their emotional outbursts fail to break your composure, fail to bait you into insubordination, and generate a clear paper trail, they will quietly back off and look for an easier, less disciplined target. In our final section, we'll bring every framework together into a master system for building an untouchable personal presence that deters bullies before they ever attempt an attack. Lowering your vocal pitch and documenting verbal directives creates an unassailable professional shield against authority bullies. The ultimate triumph in learning how to disarm a bully without fighting is reaching a state where you rarely have to use these tactical maneuvers at all. Verbal aggressors, manipulators, and workplace bullies are natural predators. They constantly conduct subtle, subconscious scans of their environment to identify easy prey. They look for signals of internal insecurity, rapid, anxious speech patterns, poor posture, submissive eye contact, and an overwhelming need for social approval. When you transform your internal baseline and project authentic, unshakable composure, you build an invisible aura of deterrence that stops most attacks before they are ever launched. Dale Carnegie's philosophy was never about weaponizing trickery to control people. It was about cultivating deep personal character, emotional self-mastery, and genuine respect for human dignity. When you are truly secure in your own worth, another person's insult carries zero emotional weight. You realize that a bully's attack is never about you. It is a loud, public confession of their own internal inadequacy, fragile ego, and fear. Viewing aggression through this diagnostic lens replaces panic with quiet detachment and mild curiosity. Allows you to integrate this untouchable mindset into your daily life. Commit to practicing these 5 foundational pillars of social sovereignty. Master the power of the freeze, respond to hostility with a 3-second pause, a calm expression, and 0 physical fidgeting. Bends deprive them of emotional feedback. Refuse to get angry, defensive, or flustered. Leave their aggressive energy hanging in cold silence. Drag covert hostility into the light. Use literal clarification and calm questions to strip away passive-aggressive subtext. Bench anchor yourself in objective reality. Strip emotion from high-stakes conflicts and focus strictly on facts, parameters, and paper trails. Cultivate high-status physical presence. Take up space naturally. Keep your vocal timbre grounded and hold steady eye contact without chamdia. When you master the art of non-violent disarming, you achieve something far greater than winning an argument. or putting a rude person in their place. You gain total sovereignty over your emotional state. You walk into any room, whether filled with supportive allies or hostile agitators, knowing that no one has the power to lower your status or break your peace. Without your explicit consent, you lead with calm authority, protect your boundaries with ease, and navigate the world with absolute, unyielding dignity. Building unshakable internal self-mastery creates a quiet aura of deterrence that stops verbal aggression before it begins.